Joining us in studio right now might be the Secretary of State, Adrian Fontes, or as we discussed in the last segment, it might be the AI Adrian Fontes. So will the real Adrian Fontes please stand up?
I thought you wanted me sitting here.
This
you
is
actually
good.
made me adjust my chair because I was too tall for your.
Yeah.
I appreciate you coming in. I do.
Thank you.
The real Adrian Fontes is with us, not AI Fontes.
That we know of.
But well, that's one of the things that we talked about. If you were to cut a video that said, "I'm not the real Adrian Fontes,"
We did. We've
would
done it several times.
so? Right, but that was an actual AI that cut the video, right? That
Yes.
wasn't. But you've never said, "I'm not the real Adrian Fontes." You could literally cut a video that says, "I'm AI Fontes," and we would know the difference between that and the AI.
Theoretically.
That is a correct statement. If I wanted to stand up and make a video, and at the beginning I would say, "This isn't really the Secretary of State. I'm an artificial intelligence generated version. I'm an avatar."
Yeah.
I could theoretically do that.
Could somebody use that? I'm just thinking, you're a lawyer. I'm thinking of this as, the people that are like, well, I never sent that text message. Somebody else must have had my phone. I mean, couldn't people even make denials over things by saying AI did it, it wasn't me?
You are getting ready to insure people towards divorce and all kinds of fun things right now. Look, this is, we were talking a little bit during the break here. This is absolutely, completely 100% new.
Yeah.
And people aren't even close to thinking about this the way that we have, and they're not preparing for it the way we have. And it's not just elections. It's businesses, it's personal relationships, it's medicine, it's the law, it's music, it's arts and culture, it's science. Every aspect of humanity is going to be impacted by this, and we need to stop with the nonsense, and we need to actually agree on facts. And so my biggest problem with this entire space of conversation is this. There are still people out there who insist on lies and misrepresentations, particularly as to elections, and they have made reality blurred on purpose because they're grifting, because they're making personal money, because they're getting political power out of it. And it's making those of us who operate in reality and actually want to do well for all of the rest of us, it's making us fight uphill. We're like that Greek guy with the big rock rolling it up the hill.
Sisyphus, yeah.
Sisyphus,
Joe
yeah.
hates when I bring up Greek mythology on the show, though. He yells at me.
I don't mind it.
Yeah.
I'm a bit of a Hellenophile.
Yeah.
And so what we have to do is we have to grow up real fast because this technology is changing at a pace that is so rapid. Even the technologists themselves are a little bit skittish on this. And I've talked to folks, this is why we've been doing this AI training. This is why we've been creating these deepfakes. Because I want my elections folks to be so used to looking at this that they're not excited and confused about it anymore, that they understand as well as they can, that they are as well prepared as possible, and they can meet with these new circumstances with confidence. This is why we're doing these preparations. This is something that I take that seriously, just as seriously as we're taking our live shooter drills, because there are still friggin' maniacs out there who are stupid enough to think that violence is the answer for elections. I mean, that's terrorism, okay? That's just stupid. There are still people out there who think that if they say it loud enough and long enough, that everybody's going to believe it. If it's not based in fact, it's not real, folks. And so the fact that we have these people out there continuing to blur the lines between reality and falsehood means that this tool cannot be as positive as it could. It's not going to meet its positive potential because the chances of it being used by bad actors is that much greater. And that's really the great disappointment here. We could have amazing developments using AI, amazing efficiencies in business because of AI, absolutely incredible new boundaries in medicine and science that we could conquer because of the data processing capacity, because of the way that large language models are really moving the agenda forward in certain areas. But because of this, I was about to say BS.
I'm so proud of you. Yeah.
You self-censored.
I was
telling
really
you,
good.
I was so close.
Yeah.
Thank you in the
See,
booth
maybe
back
it
there.
is
Yeah.
AI
It was-
Secretary Fontes because the real Secretary Fontes would have let it rip.
It's just so frustrating that these folks are still out there. And here's the thing. This hurts business in Arizona.
Yes.
You think election denialism hasn't stopped some investors from bringing their businesses to Arizona?
Sure.
You think this nonsensical belief in falsehoods and continuing to foster these BS narratives and these mythologies about our election systems, you think that hasn't chased away investors? This is one of the best places in the world to invest. With the billions of dollars that the Biden administration has brought in through the CHIPS Act, which was bipartisan, by the way, so that's not a political statement, with all of the potential new businesses that we've got, with the fact that we're so solid in knowing how to manage growth here in this state, and we've still got this pocket of morons who wants to run around and boo and pout and point fingers and say, no, it's all corrupt, no, it's all fraud, when they know better. They're chasing away dollars. And that hurts Arizona, and that's what makes me angry about these guys.
Secretary of State Adrian Fontes joining us here. It's 2024, or at least I think it is. We're still early on with the infancy of AI, but how can I know if something is really legitimate? Because some of these exercises that you walk people through with AI voices calling up people who could be sitting in an election center, and you mentioned some things like look at a website, make sure it says .gov instead of .com, things like that. But what would stop me from just slapping my own .gov on something that I make at my house and post on a website? Obviously, Facebook or whomever would take it down at some point, but how can we know if things are legit these days?
Well, the .gov thing goes back to ICANN and some regulations that prevent anybody from getting that, right? You can get
Legally.
a .com, .net, .org. You can. There have been attempts to spoof .gov, but that little tiny corner of it is still pretty doggone good.
Good.
Okay, so we can have some confidence in that.
But what if I get a number to an election center and call up an election center in November?
Where are you getting the number from?
I don't know.
Go to Arizona. Go to azsos.gov.
Okay.
Right. Go to your local election officials. Go to those trusted sources. Right. The county recorder's office, the county election departments in the various counties across Arizona. Look, we operate on faith. Mm-hmm. Okay. All of our society operates on faith. The fact that there are some people trying to destroy the civic faith that we have in one another is the big problem. AI is an amplifier of that when it's badly used, when malicious actors utilize it. But those of us in the community who believe in one another, regardless of politics or any of that stuff, when we believe in the drivers that are next to us on the highway, when we believe that the servers are not going to be, spitting in our food at every restaurant, when we believe in the fact that, we're paying insurance and they're probably going to cover most of the stuff if our house catches on fire, when we believe that if we dial 911, someone's going to show up. We operate on faith in this society across the board. Now, we have systems that back that up. When you sign a lease agreement, you've got court systems to back that up, right? And again, that's just one example.
And we trust the court system will do it.
And we have faith. We operate on civic faith, not religious faith, not spirituality, although a lot of folks have that, and that's fine.
Yeah.
But that civic faith is what binds us together as a society. Look carefully at the folks who want to destroy that. Look carefully at the folks who want our society to crumble because they personally feel aggrieved. Those are the bad actors. Those are the folks that are either confused and have been misled or on purpose. They've got some other agenda. Yeah. They've got something to gain. And artificial intelligence isn't the bad thing. It's the amplifier of the bad thing. It's the magnifier of those bad messages. So we shouldn't fear it because it has great benefits. We shouldn't fear the unknown. We should learn about it. We should embrace the fact that it ain't going anywhere. And we should actually engage with it in a positive way to stave off all the rest of this nonsense.
Man may have just invented fire again, in other words. And now that you know what to be on the lookout when it comes to the online fakes, what happens to those bad actors that are making them? We'll ask the Secretary of State as we continue with our election security conversation next. You mentioned something about that training where you wanted to basically desensitize your election workers to seeing AI so that when they saw it, the novelty had worn off, that they were able to identify it and move on very quickly. And I thought about all the training we do in offices to try to identify phishing emails, phishing scams.
Like the Nigerian prince.
Yes, right?
Nobody falls for that
Nobody
anymore.
falls for it anymore.
No.
But also, now they tell you look for, in fact, in your video, you said look for misspellings. And with AI, that's not going to be a thing, but it still does come up that way. Make sure that the domain name is a legit domain name, this sort of thing. Are you expecting an email? That sort of thing. When it comes to phishing scams and email scams and things like that, the scammers continue to evolve and get better and better and better.
Sure.
And we say, here are the things you can look for to identify, and the scammers go, oh, those are the things I have to get better at.
But let's just put a pin on that.
Sure.
That's not new.
No.
Crooks have never wanted to be legit. And a lot of them are pretty smart. And for decades and forever, I mean, Ponzi schemes were not invented by dum-dums.
No.
Right? They were invented by smart people who figured out ways to scam people, and then they evolved. And the bad guys evolved, and then law enforcement evolves, and then the bad guys evolve, and society has to evolve to answer to and react to all of this stuff. This is just like a skip in evolution, sort of like a mutation like the X-Men, right? This is a new version of this type of a thing. And the trainings, we've been doing this for a while. We did our elections officials in December. We did another one last month. This one was for media, actually. We had one of your folks from KTAR there and folks from big papers and small papers across the country. And we're doing some for law enforcement next month. This is part of the way that we are, as you indicated, familiarizing folks with this new tool that the bad guys have on purpose. And it's novel. It's kind of it's interesting, and it's exciting, and it's terrifying, and all that stuff. And in a few months, when it matters, it won't be that big of a deal. It'll be another one of those things that we have to deal with. The temperature will come down on this conversation. The notion of what this thing is will become much more acceptable. Will the technology get better? Yes, and we're training for that.
And that was my question.
Will we be better prepared to deal with it then? Absolutely. And so this is really kind of the eternal cat and mouse game between folks in the legitimate world who are just kind of trying to do their jobs and folks in the illegitimate world that kind of want to ruffle things up and are too weird to put that energy to good use. I don't know why. They're like trying to short circuit everything. Just like, I did some criminal defense work in my day. And I'll tell you what, some of my clients were really smart people.
Yeah.
And they got caught. And I just was always frustrated with a lot of them. Like, why don't you just put this to good use? Like, why don't you use those brains that you have, and instead of trying to scam or cheat people, put it to good use and go do good for society, right? And maybe I have rose-colored glasses on, but I genuinely believe that in balance, this AI thing is going to be very, very good for humanity if the good folks that are well-intentioned get a grip on it, get to understand it, and start figuring out how to defend against the bad actors, because they will do bad stuff. We've seen it. We've already seen it in Europe. We've already seen it in America, impacting elections directly.
We've only got about a minute left here. What is going on as far as the enforcement side of things? I know that's not necessarily under your purview, but you are in contact with investigators and things like that. When it comes to these bad actors, is there a way that we're able to track them down? And if so, what's being done? I know we discussed laws are kind of woefully behind right now.
Yeah, there's several states. Wisconsin comes to mind. I think Colorado, possibly Michigan. I can't remember the laundry list off the top of my head, where the statutes, where the legislatures have imposed some statutes and put up some guardrails. There are currently 3 bills that I'm actually going to get briefed on later this afternoon in Congress that are moving to do this sort of try to regulate some of this on the federal side, right? But we're kind of behind in that. Arizona, I don't see anything on in the playbook. I think in Arizona, we're still worried about, this nonsensical BS that we saw emerge in 2020. We still have candidates that think that they won elections that they clearly didn't win. And so until we can pull our heads out of our butts in Arizona and actually get some people who care about Arizona to govern and move things forward in the legislature, we're going to be stuck behind. And that's not where I want Arizona to be.
The real Secretary of State, Adrian Fontes, our guest.
Thanks for watching The Chris and Joe Show. Click to see more from Chris and Joe, and tap the button in the middle to subscribe to KTAR News.